What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Tiger Uppercuts, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at Takara Tomy's Beast Wars Tigatron. This is on loan to me from Robert D. The way it came in box, as the folks on Patreon saw, it was pretty obvious that he didn't care too much for it, but we're going to give it a fair shake. I have things that already bother me about it. I have things that are already impressive to me about it. So, in typical Takara fare, I suppose. That being said, we are going to talk about this guy, but in order to do so, we need to talk about accessories. We get one, put 'em up face. We got one, hey, you come here often face. We get one, I'm so excited face. And then one, I'm so scared face. So you get 4 different faces. They're all decoed the same, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the figure. You get his blaster, and it's decoed very nicely. It has this kind of meat section, which they always do, which is very strange to me. It has the handle that flips out with the turquoise, the metallic turquoise or green kind of painted on it. We have the white painted on, and then we have the same sort of tiger deco painted on. And in typical Masterpiece fashion, this can do a number of things. One of those things it can do is stow in the beast mode. So in order to do that, you gotta get this up. It's a bit of a tight fit and hard to accomplish, but you can do it. Fold in the cannon, collapse that, take your tiger, and open up his innards, as it were. And as you can see, there's a square peg there, and the circle core lining, square and circle. And easier said than done. There. And then you got to close everything up around it, and that's where it'll store. He'll hold that just fine in typical Masterpiece style with the gun plugging into the hand. And then he also comes with his like arm rockets, and they are also coated in a layer of paint, finished rather, so that looks good as well. This is supposed to go on his this flap here on his arm, and that piece is supposed to hold it. But I got news for you, it's not a great tolerance, and I would almost advise just putting it here behind it, or you could probably even put it here in front of it, and you just might have more luck than it's sitting right here. It just doesn't feel good. He comes with his hacking device. It's a translucent purple kind of tubing, and then it comes down to the silver and black paint there, and silver and gold paint there. That will slot into a side slot on his head, and then you can kind of have the thing come down. You kind of hold it with tension. It just pegs in right there. And he comes with another Megatron head, which is nice. And it has the purple paint on it, 2 shades, both metallic purple, the green metallic paint, and then the Predacon symbol inside of there. The eyes are painted, and then this metallic kind of gunmetal is painted. It looks really good. And then these pieces flip up. I think that's something from the show or whatever, but you can pull off the gimmick if you so desire. And there he is, kind of holding Megatron's hand with the hacking stuff. And I don't know if this Megatron head will fit on the Megatron, but this little hole right there will fit nicely on his index finger and kind of balance well. So if you're looking to pose it a certain way, that should work. Lastly, he comes with an adapter for a flight stand. Not the flight stand itself, but you can attach this to the flight stand you already own and utilize it. It's just a translucent plastic. And it's supposed to attach with these 2 clips like around that section in the instructions of what it looks like, but like it doesn't really secure itself. Like it holds kind of loosely, but you're not going to be able to, I don't know. I mean, I guess it'll work, but it's not really clipped on. Gimmick wise, there's a flap on the top of the tiger's head that allows you access to his eyes, where you can go to red eyes, or you can control kind of the direction in which he's looking, or you can kind of get him out of the way, like get the pupils out of the way. Which I know may not be cartoon accurate or whatever the case may be, but I think it looks cooler. Like, it looks more wicked. But that's, you know, it's up to you. You got these little whiskers here. They're kind of gimmicky. And now let's talk about the cat mode. So, yeah, it's okay. The front half works a lot better than the back half. That seems to be how a lot of these are going, where, like, it doesn't all work. Like, a part of it they just sort of write off, and the back half is what they seem to write off here. Now, that may be accurate to the show. I can't remember. I haven't seen the show in years, and I'm not going to rewatch it just for the sake of this. But I can talk about how this looks just from the jump, and the back part doesn't look finished, whereas the front part looks much better accomplished. That being said, we have the digital paint throughout with the tiger stripes, and they look wonderful. as usual. They always do a great job with that. These panels, I have a hard time getting them to stay stuck in as I've been manipulating it for for pictures and so forth. Just as I get one, you know, another section will come undone somewhere, and then I get that, and another section will come undone somewhere, and it just doesn't lend itself to a very pleasant experience in that regard. All right, so the head, we get a little bit of a movement up, a fair bit, I'd say. A little bit down, little bit of a swivel, nothing crazy, but a little bit, and then we get a little jaw action. So that's nice. Inside there, the teeth and gums and all that are all painted, so that looks good. And the tail, we get a swivel and we get a double hinge. So not bad either. The front arms, swivel, hinge outward, which is nice. You get a bicep swivel, you get an elbow, and then you get an ankle rocker, which is also nice. And the ankle rocker, where it plugs in, is on a disc hinge that'll get you an ankle tilt down and sort of flattened out. Which is nice. That all works well. Same for the other side. Back legs, a little bit more touch and go. We have a hinge out from the hip, and then we have rotation at the hip. We have a bit of a knee joint. Once again, as you start manipulating it, panels start coming undone, and an ankle tilt up. And you get a rocker by manipulating this section here, which is actually pretty clever. So I dig that as well. You know, like I'm not sure that's done digitally. It almost looks like an airbrush burst of white on the underbelly, which does look nice. And I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not hateful. It's just far more effective at the front than it is at the back, so to speak. And there it is next to Tiger Track. So he's a pretty big cat. Let's get him transformed. And actually, while I was taking a few more pictures, I realized there's a lot more articulation to this tail. So there's at least another hinge here and at the tip of the tail, and then another swivel there. So you should be able to get the tail in every little pose your heart desires. All right, so here's the good news. You ready? Most of this stuff starts coming undone as you manipulate it anyway. So if it hasn't already, just start working these two pieces apart and fillet his arms open. You can start working on these midsections here. There's these panels towards his flank. It's kind of like Fans Toys Masterpiece Astrotrain, where you just, if there's a panel to flip, just flip it. And flip it. Bop it. Hit it. Reverse. All right. And then take this one, bring this down. God, it's a tight little hinge. And then that will collapse onto itself, and you can get this arm up and out of the way and collapse this midsection here, once again, if it hasn't already collapsed just from you handling the cat mode, which is likely. All right, same on this side. Flip this over here. Flip it. Bop it. Hit it. Clip it. Hinge it. God, that pin is super tight. Be careful. Plug that in. Open up the arm. Once again, if this piece hasn't closed, close it now. And on the arms, actually, you can collapse those panels, once again, on a double hinge around the arm. Next, we gotta reverse the whole body. So flip this head down and just get it out of the way, because what we're focused on here are these panels. So we'll work on his hindquarters, untab these side pieces here, start to just loosen all of this up. This is gonna come down and over, and then tab back in, and then this has a little tab on it. Let me get a tool. I gotta find out which direction it. Maybe it's the other one. No, it's there. There's some really wonky tolerances on this thing for a Takara product. That'll tab in to the backpack there, bring down the tail, and you basically want the two sections of the double hinge of the tail to sit side by side, and then the end of the tail to come back out on that flap. and you should have it. Now we got to get his head sitting right. So let's see, bring that, just collapse it the best way you can. It should make a little bit of sense as you're doing it, just as to how it has to go. But the flaps of the neck, let me back out a little bit. The neck flap here has 2 slots, and it has to correspond with those 2 tabs on the white part there. So, you know, just get it back in there, and then bring the tiger head up and around. I don't have it 100%, but you get the point. All right, spin the waist 180. Unhook the legs, and we'll start working on them. So once again, this is kind of a, if you see something, open it up. So open this up, open this up. This spins, so spin it, bop it, flip it, reverse. All right, open this knee pad up, bring that up. Then we gotta open up this panel, which now I can't find my tool. Open that up. Then you can get this piece out, and that will actually spin around to the front and plug in, which I do like. It's a little clever bit right there. Then the foot, you want to bring back the heel, spin the toes, and then wrap in your paws, dog paws, inside of the foot. And then you want to close this, bring that around. You got to make sure that this clears. It's on a bit of a slider, so make sure that that clears. You want to have that section of your knee facing forward, right? So spin to have that forward, put your toes forward, and then this will come around and hook in to the back of the leg. And there's a pretty involved transformation. Actually, this piece will come around too. But it's very clever and relatively intuitive. So I applaud stuff like that. So let's do it again. Untab it, open it, flip it, spin it, bop it. Open this up, bring up the knee. On the back side, flip this panel up, bring out the shin pad. Bring the shin pad around so that that will tab back into the front of the leg. Spin the foot around. And bring your heel down. Spin your toes. And then tuck in your paws, your dog paws. And make sure that the little tab is at the front and then the foot is facing forward. And on the back, tuck in your calf piece, tuck this piece in, that piece will hook into your back of your calf. And you can bring this piece around and spin your thigh pad. All right, then straighten out your leg. You gotta spin your paws, your dog paws, and then bring that down. Bring this, you gotta flip this whole thing. So you want, it's hard, it's like, it's very natural. It's a very natural movement, but it's a little hard to explain. And then you want that tab to align with the shoulder there. So we'll do that again. I'll try to show you better. Spin the paws, the dog paws, and then spin the dog paws again. Bring that arm down. So you're left with this shoulder pad, right? So bring it down, spin it, flip it, tight tolerance once again, and let's see, you want to have that tab core line with that slot on the shoulder. And because these tolerances are a little wonky on this side, it's causing me some grief. But there it is. And then the last thing that you have to do is bring the paws, dog paws, across his back, and they peg into one another to sit securely. And it's not 100% it, but I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. All right, so let's talk about the figure. The metallic green everywhere looks beautiful. Add that to the glossy pearlish white. Very, very beautifully deco. Then you have this matte white, like cream almost color with the tiger tracks, so to speak, all over them. Really good looking deco. You hear my kids upstairs? And they wonder why I'm going to jump in their backside with both feet later. All right, so we have this head here, and it's, once again, I have tolerance issues with this thing. So this hinge here is really tight. It's on a hinge swivel. I'll try to get it back in there. You get a good bit up, a little bit down, not really much, and a swivel, no confused cat look or dog look. And it's not sitting back in there. There we go. And then we have the shoulders. So it's a hinge at the base here, and that'll get you some downward movement. That also is on a swivel, so that'll get you a butterfly movement both forward and back, which is nice. Let me back out a little bit more. And the arm will go all the way up, like Remy and Fat Joe. And you also get a bicep swivel right below the shoulder. You get basically a disc hinge elbow. Single hinge, but get you the full run, so what difference does it make? And then you get the wrist swivel and a hinge in out. The fingers are on a base pin knuckle. The index finger is individually articulated. The other three are on the same pin. I mean, they're all on the same pin, but you know what I mean. And then we have the metallic green inside, which looks good, as previously stated. Same for the other side. So let's get the arms out of the way. Everything is pretty much top shelf so far in regards to articulation. We have a waist swivel. Surprisingly, no ab crunch. At least it doesn't feel like it. Maybe it does have it, and I'm not seeing it, but no ab crunch that I can see. But you do get the waist swivel. Thighs. We have universals, basically. They're kind of makeshift universals. They're actually disc hinges on the pegs, but it's fine. It works the same way. So you get, I'd say that's the full Van Damme, ladies and gents. And then you also get ratcheted forward and back, which is just the way they're doing stuff now. I'm not a fan of it, but it's fine. Forward and back. Of all the places that this guy needs ratchets, forward and back movement on the legs is just not it. And this isn't a problem that we're seeing just with Tiger Tracks. This is a problem that we're seeing with Transformer toys across the board these days. But I mean, it needs knee ratchets is what it needs, you know. But it's not what we got. Once again, the deco looks beautiful. I just want to drive that home every chance I get because it does. We have a single hinge knee. I guess it's technically a double, maybe, but it's so slight. It's basically operates off of this disc hinge. Unfortunately, the joint isn't painted. We've seen people paint joints before. It works to different levels of success, but that does throw off the look to me. The knees could have really used ratchets, in my opinion. Down here, once again, the deco is beautiful. We do get an ankle swivel, which I do like. I don't talk about it enough, but I do like having an ankle swivel. We kind of have an ankle swivel, and it adds to, it's a subtle thing that adds a lot to posing. Now you get an ankle tilt up, an ankle tilt down, not really. You can adjust the heel spur to get you some extra help, and then you got a pretty ridiculous rocker with the white paint down the toes. There it is from the back, you know, relatively clean. You know, I don't know. It's a mixed bag. It's funny because a lot of the things that I've been kind of on Takara about recently, it does better than usual. And a lot of the things that I expect Takara to kind of nail, it doesn't quite do that. So it's a weird little conundrum I find myself in. Let's do some size comparisons. I don't know exactly what would be most beneficial for you guys in terms of size, so there he is with a Masterpiece car. So he's got a significant amount of size to him. Like, he's not a little bot. Final thoughts-wise, let's start with the negatives. Surprisingly, the biggest negative I have here is the build. That's something that I expect a car to knock out of the box every single time. Build is never their issue. I guess never say never, right? Is rarely their issue. But there's tolerance issues here. Some joints are super tight. For instance, the neck joint, elbow joints, some of the hip joints, some of the finger joints. Not all, some. Some joints are too loose. My knee joints specifically. Some of my flap joints. Some of the tolerances with the flaps interlocking with each other, are too tight, or not enough room for margin of error. That's just not something that I expect with this company. He's also very panely. It just gets on my nerves. It's definitely a personal subjective thing, but it just doesn't always seem like the panels have great places to go or secure places to lock in. But like I said, that's definitely my issue there, more so than perhaps someone else's. Also, the flight stand, that's another tolerance issue in my opinion, but also the fact that the flight stand doesn't come with the flight stand, you know, like just adapter for another flight stand. It's like, come on, like even Mafex gives you a flight stand with every figure. But yeah, those are my big issues. I guess if I was going to be nitpicky, I would say that the alt mode lacks, but I think that that's just something that most Beast Wars fans have decided is okay. They've just decided to deal with it because they expect it as something that's just a part of the nature of having to deal with figures that turn into beasts. They're just like, oh yeah, well, you know, something's gonna suffer, and the hindquarters are what suffers here, and they're okay with that. And I can understand accepting that sacrifice, but I still have to point it out that it doesn't look 100%. Also, real quick, I want to mention that it has light piping for eyes, and that has no place in Masterpiece Transformers. I've said it once, and I'll say it anytime you allow me the opportunity to. Zero place. Makes the figure look dead. It's of no value. Now, let me talk about what I love about this figure, because there are some things. The paint job on here is absolutely beautiful. Stunning, top to bottom. And while you may say, well, that's kind of consistent with Takara, I would argue that. I would say that sometimes they nail paint, and sometimes it's like, is this thing even look painted? Because the paint doesn't look vibrant and alive, but this does. This looks vibrant. It looks alive. It looks premium. The gloss mixed with the metallic, mixed with the flats, it all works. Plus the digital paint, all works. It's also very well articulated. The arms in particular, but also the legs, they all lend themselves to very dynamic and natural looking poses. And I think the accessories are appropriate. And the transformation's kind of straightforward. Like, and I like that it has a masterpiece moment with the legs. Like, there's some cool stuff here. You know, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people giving this figure some grief, you know, about not being floored by it. And I'm not floored by it either, but I think for the standard that Takara has become, which in my opinion is a lower standard than where they were 3-4 years ago, this is a solid effort. That's what's confusing. People have forgotten that the standard has slipped, in my opinion, and now you're getting figures of this caliber, and in my opinion, this is better than what they've been pumping out as of late. Not perfect, and it definitely needs some ratchets in some places. Hardware would have really fixed a lot of this, and like kind of joint tolerance. I don't know if they didn't account for the paint, but something is wrong there. But if that would have been fixed, I'd have been like, look, what's wrong with this thing? It's fine. Now, maybe it doesn't look anything like the character or whatever. That I don't know about, because I haven't seen that show in forever, and I can't be bothered to look. I don't want anybody seeing it in my Google history, you know what I mean? Just kidding. Either way, I think it's a pretty good figure. I think it's a decent attempt from a company that has slowly been slipping down a slippery slope, but have managed to make something pretty good in the process. That's my thoughts. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.